Excellent. Bonjour tout le monde and hello everyone. Wow, take a look at everyone joining us here today. Thank you for joining our global press event for the launch of our Toronto Advanced Air Mobility White Paper. To all the returning faces, thank you for your continued interest in the advanced air mobility space in Canada, and specifically with CAM. To our new attendees here today and the world media, simply welcome. Your journey of learning, connecting, and being a part of the future of aviation in Canada continues right here, right now. As for initial introductions, my name is J.R. Hammond, and I'm privileged to serve as the Executive Director for CAM, our federal, not-for-profit, Canadian Advanced Air Mobility Consortium. Alongside me, we have our lead operating officer and moderator for today's event, Chris Howe, and our CAM team members of Nishant, Darian, and David supporting us behind the scenes. Throughout 2021 and our incredible ecosystem of CAM stakeholders, our team members nationwide have been working to bring the future of zero-emission aviation across Canada. Today, we are honored to have the opportunity to invite Canada and the world into the future of zero-emission aviation, advanced air mobility. Thank you once again for joining us today for the launch of our Toronto Advanced Air Mobility White Paper, outlining the work we as an ecosystem have been progressing in the regions of Toronto, the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and the province of Ontario. Today's event and agenda is really an opportunity to begin conversation with some of our leading experts in this space. We'll begin our content with a brief overview of CAM and the ecosystem we have created, which is the national voice for advanced air mobility here in Canada. The introduction content will then be followed by our leading experts, a part of the CAM consortium. CAM is privileged not only to have the insight, engagement, and contributions from each of these organizations, but their deep-rooted history helping guide our implementation of the future of advanced air mobility. Barry McKinnon of Air Canada Cargo will launch our conversations, followed by Moira Harvey of the Ontario Aerospace Council. Michael Diamond of Next Advisors will continue on insights behind the development of the white paper. And lastly, we'll invite our moderator in to facilitate the question and answer session for our event today. Now, given that we're on our Zoom webinar side, we invite all attendees here today to submit any questions throughout the event via the question and answer function available in the Zoom webinar. Please state your name, the media outlet or organization you are from, and to whom your question is directed to on our panel. While we will do our best to try and answer as many questions as possible, please do not hesitate to follow up with our media team via the email at media@canadianaam.com. Now, in importance for beginning our press event here today, we need to acknowledge that we are hosting this digital event on the unceded and traditional ancestral territories of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, among many others. Our ongoing work at CAM spans across hundreds of ancestral territories of the Indigenous peoples of Canada, and collectively, as settlers, we recognize our duty and responsibility to not only decolonization, reconciliation, but the equitable and inclusive use of our future air resources. Now, as we lead into the future of zero-emission aviation and advanced air mobility, we look at this soaring opportunity coming from the global launch of our Toronto Advanced Air Mobility White Paper. CAM, the Canadian Advanced Air Mobility Consortium, as a federal not-for-profit, is the national voice for advanced air mobility here in Canada. Our growth and importance in the future of aviation has been strengthened over the past 2 years thanks to our co-founding partners at the National Research Council of Canada. Together, CAM and the National Research Council, which is Canada's largest federal research and development organization, showcase our base as a unified national and international voice for advanced air mobility. In order to bring understanding to the question of what is advanced air mobility, we really look to the following definition. Advanced air mobility is the future of aviation, of how we move people, cargo, and perform air services with new aircraft and energy systems. The advanced air mobility umbrella covers the work coming out of the drone and RPAS world and puts focus on the urban and regional air mobility operations. We expect that the lessons learned from the drone and RPAS space will then be applied to the larger urban and regional air mobility markets, and further, the larger size commercial aviation market as technology continues to develop. While the advanced air mobility market supports both piloted and remotely piloted operations, the main focus and value driver for CAM is ensuring the progress that our industry moves to our sustainability mandate of zero emission operations. Our profile at CAM not only includes the piloted aircraft like Hyundai Urban Air Mobility's concept aircraft, who have developed their eVTOL, or the electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that operates similar to our conventional helicopter side. But not only that, advanced air mobility includes the development of both fixed-wing aircraft that further unlocks opportunities in some of our regional air markets that are served by conventional air transport carriers today. Shown here is an example of Heart Aerospace from Sweden, showcasing their ES-19 fully electric passenger aircraft. These aircraft not only present opportunities to leverage existing airports and define cargo routes, but also expand for future passenger routes that could be more optimally served by innovative advanced air mobility aircraft. This then brings us to the purpose of why we exist here at CAM. At CAM, we exist to connect Canada and the world through zero emission flight. This purpose is deeply rooted in our DNA, which is to be the unified national voice for zero emission flight in Canada, unlocking both the urban and regional air mobility markets for the future of aviation across our country. With this founding purpose, we really look to our bold, audacious 20-year goal for the consortium on how we are going to measure our success. Building off of the 2050 net zero commitment from the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, CAM is working to ensure that every aircraft in Canada flying under 500 kilometers will operate with zero emissions by 2040. We are challenging ourselves, our members, and the industry with this vision as an opportunity to make generational positive impacts as a result of our actions here today. Now, we know fundamentally this journey in zero emission aviation and advanced air mobility cannot be done in silo. We continue to bring interested stakeholders from across the globe to join the conversation in Canada. Our CAM ecosystem not only includes our members, however, the expanding voices of academia, industry, our 3 levels of federal, provincial, and municipal governments, and the capital world to create the unified advanced air mobility narrative. These voices have come together, and that is what we've created in our Toronto Advanced Air Mobility White Paper. Through the culmination of work throughout 2021, I am beyond proud to announce the launch of our Toronto Advanced Air Mobility White Paper. The white paper, summary document, and media package are now available live on our website, canadianaam.com. Today, CAM and our incredible team of experts are here to announce not only the commitment to the future of aviation, but importantly as well, extending an invitation to the public, industry, and government to engage and join us along this creative, innovative journey. We know the goal of the Advanced Air Mobility White Paper is really to inspire and drive education and awareness for the future of revenue-generating advanced air mobility opportunities in the greater Golden Horseshoe region. We are inviting experts to help bridge the challenges that we know exist in helping create an equitable inclusive, intermodal, and zero-emission industry. The engagement with the public is critical to the insight needed for any implementation of an advanced air mobility technology, and the right engagement with the public early on can lay the foundations for effective development and integration into the region's development of public transportation and aviation in the medium and long term. By providing transparent exposure and raising the awareness of the potentials of advanced air mobility, we hope to grow not only the use cases and operations that can be optimally introduced in line with existing goals set out by our urban and public transportation providers and stakeholders. Today, we acknowledge that we do not have all of the answers to achieve these goals at CAM. However, this white paper is an invitation of why we've created CAM as a space for the public, industry, and all levels of government to begin challenging those questions and working synchronously in tackling the complex challenges we have at hand. Now, while the event today is focused on the work coming out of our Toronto Advanced Air Mobility white paper, we do want to bring awareness to the insight and details coming from our existing projects across the country. CAM has been building awareness, education, and engagement in this industry, stemming from not only our work in British Columbia, but also our 4 strategic projects titled Liftoff 2021. For any additional information on the work out of Vancouver, British Columbia, our automotive and aero manufacturing side, and the Canadian AAM Master Plan, please feel free to visit our website at www.canadianaam.com. And now to bring some insight to our expert speakers that we have with us today, sharing in the insight and the future of advanced air mobility here in Canada, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Barry McKinnon of Air Canada Cargo, up to the platform to give us some insight of the awesome work going on, not only with Air Canada Cargo today, but also leading into the future. Barry, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thanks, JR, and good day to everybody joining online at today's CAM White Paper Press release event. I'm just, is my video on? Just checking.
You are all good on that side, Barry.
Terrific, excellent. Anyways, yeah, good day, everybody. Air Canada is proud to be a member of CAM, and we're grateful to have had the opportunity to participate with other stakeholders in the development of the CAM Toronto White Paper that's being released today. We are excited by the potential that quiet, zero-emission electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, or eVTOL aircraft, and remotely piloted aircraft systems, RPAS, or drones have to transform the mobility in the Greater Toronto Area and surrounding regions in the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The Toronto area is Air Canada's largest market, and Toronto Pearson Airport is Air Canada's leading global hub and also Air Canada's busiest airport. The goals of advanced air mobility are consistent with Air Canada's commitment to the goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Air Canada has a multifaceted strategy to achieve this ambitious goal, including the continued deployment of more energy efficient narrow-body aircraft yielding a 20% net reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and a 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from ground operations by the year 2030. And also by investing in sustainable aviation fuels, clean energy, as well as carbon removals and reductions, and that includes carbon offsets. Another very important facet of our net zero emission strategy is innovation, and this is where advanced air mobility comes in. Air Canada will continue to evaluate the viability, safety, and performance of new electric, hydrogen, and hybrid operational technologies, and other innovations such as short-haul transportation opportunities and electric drones to complement and support Air Canada's global business network. While certain of these innovative technologies will only be available for revenue service in the coming years, cargo delivery using drones is here now. In 2019, Air Canada Cargo entered into a 10-year commercial partnership with Drone Delivery Canada of Vaughan, Ontario, to bring drone delivery to the world of logistics and to better serve remote communities. This is the first instance of a global air carrier partnering with a pioneering drone delivery firm, and both companies are based right here in Canada. Our launch customer for commercial drone delivery is DSV Air and Sea Canada, Revenue drone delivery operations commenced in 2020 at DSV's new customer logistics center in Milton, Ontario, as the largest such facility in Canada. DSV Air and Sea is part of Denmark's DSV AS, which has now become the world's third largest logistics firm. DSV also has corporate priorities of sustainability and innovation. And DSV's Canadian operation is the first DSV business to implement drone delivery across their vast global network. Drone Delivery Canada also launched drone delivery projects in 2020 at several Ontario First Nation communities to move COVID-related healthcare products to these remote island communities. And more recently, we have a project underway with First Nation in Northern British Columbia. Here in the Toronto area, we at Air Canada Cargo can envision a future state where the strategic use of advanced air mobility aircraft for delivery can reduce roadway congestion by removing thousands of trucks from the roads, trucks that often block entire lanes in rush hour traffic, and cargo as diverse as heavy freight, depot to depot, e-commerce retail packages, and just-in-time deliveries can be delivered through a variety of efficient aircraft traveling above the traffic. This results in immense savings in carbon emissions, noise, and wear and tear on the roads. Furthermore, on-time delivery, schedule reliability, and service level agreements can be greatly enhanced. Advanced air mobility aircraft, including cargo drones, can efficiently support just-in-time logistics, such as supporting Ontario's large and automotive manufacturing sector, which is where time is the essence. Significantly, the cost of transporting goods can be reduced, bringing benefits to the consumer. To fully realize the vision of advanced air mobility, as the aircraft technology rapidly advances, the regulatory environment will need to continue to evolve as well to accommodate the advanced air mobility aircraft into the overall airspace traffic mix. This is a pacing item for the industry. We believe the regulator, Transport Canada, is progressive with the RPAS regulations, and as greater experience is being gained by the regulator and the operators of commercial drone operations, exciting new opportunities are being opened up that will involve the use of increasingly more capable delivery drones in terms of range and payload. We also emphasize and recognize the importance of our air navigation services provider, Nav Canada, enabling the safe and efficient drone operations across Canada. We note the current Drone Delivery Canada project implementation is currently underway at a major Canadian international airport, that's Edmonton International, where two courier firms, Apple Express Courier and Zing Final Miles, are partners and users of the new service. Air Canada also has a strategic sustainability partnership with Edmonton International Airport, and drone delivery is just one of the many initiatives to promote a cleaner environment. This project is the first commercial drone delivery integration to the busy airspace of a major international airport, and the excellent coordination with Nav Canada is essential to making this happen. Drone delivery is a scalable solution, and as experience is gained with this initial service, we can foresee drone delivery routes using larger drones flying over greater distances from Edmonton International in the future. Speaking of airports in the Greater Toronto and Greater Golden Horseshoe areas, the region's airports are key to the success of air mobility here, as airports are the most critical nodes in supply chains and travel networks. To move advanced air mobility forward in the region, CAM, through the National Research Council of Canada and with the support of Air Canada Cargo, recently held a whiteboard session here with the region's airports to develop a shared vision for advanced air mobility for the Greater Golden Horseshoe airports, and we begin identifying potential early advanced air mobility use cases within the region. As to how we see advanced air mobility, while by necessity some of the early projects will be pilot projects to gain the required experience, we do not view advanced air mobility as a set of standalone initiatives that's done in silos. Rather, we take a holistic view. We see it as a complementary and integral mode of future travel and a vital element in keeping our supply chains moving. This is not something we or anyone else can do in isolation. We need our partners, including airports, the regulators, and our customers to work towards a shared vision of advanced air mobility. We encourage all levels of government and stakeholders to embrace the potential of advanced air mobility to realize the benefits it can bring to our region. To summarize, the CAM white paper being released today provides a vision of the new mobility options that are coming to the Toronto area region for both passengers and cargo. Advanced air mobility is big. It will bring substantial social, environmental, and economic benefits to the region. And yes, it will take time to implement, but it is coming sooner than you may think. As I mentioned, commercial drone delivery is already operating in the region. We encourage you and all stakeholders in our region to climb on board the exciting journey that is advanced air mobility. Being an early adopter of advanced air mobility will transform how we move and will advance the global competitiveness of the Toronto region. We at Air Canada Cargo are excited about where this journey can take us. And finally, if your organization hasn't done so already, consider becoming an advocate and participant for advanced air mobility in our country and region by joining CAM. Thank you very much. Over to you, JR.
Excellent, Barry. And that's the insight that we want to make sure that invitation continues to expand. This cannot be done in a silo. And it's been excellent to work alongside Air Canada Cargo on some of the opportunities of bringing this insight forward. I do want to just bring up that one point, Barry, that you had on the great insight behind the Southern Ontario airport networks, bringing the different aspects of existing airports in the greater Golden Horseshoe region and how that's going to play a future role in advanced air mobility as a robust network. So can you just give us a quick summary on those conversations of how leveraging our existing airport networks is a great starting point for showcasing where we can have near-term wins in the advanced air mobility market?
Absolutely. So we've had a number of conversations with airports across Canada. And as I mentioned, Edmonton International Airport is our launch airport for drone delivery. Recently, the CAM, through the National Research Council of Canada, organized a whiteboard session, which we supported and helped bring the airports to basically gain an understanding what advanced air mobility is about and potential, and start those conversations. Where could those initial potential early use cases be? What links could we create? As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, some of the exciting new electric aircraft designs, eVTOL, they're not quite ready for service. So they will be by mid-decade, but drone delivery is available right now. So we can see a scenario where some of the pilot routes could be initially drone delivery routes, and that sets the stage for other types of advanced air mobility aircraft that follow.
Exactly. And that's laying the initial base there, ensuring that we bring our regulators, our ANSP provider, NAV Canada, along as well, and then building upon that shared knowledge. So excellent, Barry. Thank you once again for the insights and the support from Air Canada Cargo on really taking our most populous region of Canada and leveraging that as our network effect. So thank you for joining us again, Barry, and look forward to the continued collaboration moving forward.
Our pleasure, JR.
Excellent. So that wraps up our first speaker that we wanted to invite to our platform today. I now have the absolute pleasure to welcome our second speaker to the platform. We have Moira Harvey joining us from the Ontario Aerospace Council. Moira, it's been an absolute pleasure to have not only the experience, the guidance, and the history of the Ontario Aerospace Council, along with the journey of this discovery and innovation in advanced air mobility. Thank you once again for being here today.
Thanks so much, JR. And OAC is really happy to participate in this new development as far as air mobility goes in obviously the province of Ontario, but certainly working with our colleagues across the country to look at a Canadian or a pan-Canadian approach to this. We're delighted to look at new opportunities for our aerospace ecosystem and members. And that's one of our key priorities and really our raison d'etre, if you will. We represent about 200 member organizations in Ontario, which cover the manufacturing sector, MRO, colleges and universities, and research centers. So this fits in very well with what we want to do. Innovation is part of aerospace DNA. It's always evolving, always changing. And certainly, sustainability, the net zero emissions targets, a lot of that has been on the horizon for some time. However, with the advent of COVID and the pandemic, a lot of those timelines have definitely been accelerated. And many of our member companies and research institutions are currently seeking new ways to look at some of those innovative ways of approaching sustainable aviation fuels, more electric aircraft, and all of the efforts of CAM and the concept of advanced air mobility fits well within those parameters. We're delighted to help CAM accelerate stakeholder engagement, build awareness, and help shape our supply chains to support those future developments here in Ontario. We believe that successful integration into the transportation system will positively impact job creation, investment in R&T, and that's not just here in Ontario, but that's across the country. I think, and as part of the working group, we're thrilled to be there, but I think CAM and Nexus, the white paper that's being presented today, is a great first step. It very much clearly outlines some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that come along with those challenges with respect to infrastructure for Veriports, the power accessibility side of things, the regulatory involvement of TC and NAV Canada. It enables a cross collaboration for certainly aerospace, auto, and other sectors to widen our base of expertise. Again, giving us those additional R&D and R&T opportunities across Canada. And I think, as Canadians, we don't typically boast about our capabilities, and that's one of the things we're not good at. But we really have an amazing ecosystem in our research and technology community, particularly as it relates to aerospace, advanced mobility, advanced manufacturing. And it's great to see us seize this opportunity to really further that and continue to hold our place in the global marketplace. So I think, one of the key factors of this is the sustainability and meeting those net zero emissions targets. It's certainly a major focal point, particularly in the aerospace sector, and I think far beyond that as well. We look forward to continuing to work with you, to continuing to create that awareness and engagement of supply chain and the opportunities that will offer. And being an East Ender in Toronto, I'm all for getting out of those traffic jams.
That's it, Myra. And I just want to bring that extremely important point that you made on the existing base that Ontario has on the aerospace side, on the automotive side, that is going to be critical for transitioning into the future of aviation as well. This cannot be a brand new siloed industry coming in without those links to our existing base.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really key. And I think, it's one of those opportunities where we have to expand that ecosystem and work together to achieve greater things. Certainly that base is here, and it makes absolute sense to leverage those capabilities, leverage that knowledge, and work to that next level of sustainability and efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And then similarly, to build upon that, before we get to the operations and the manufacturing side, the insight coming from the research and development and the R&T aspect in Ontario, unbelievable opportunities to continue to leverage that base and feed that into not only the operational system, but how we are building a new industry in Canada.
Absolutely. And although there are many challenges with the infrastructure that is required to support advanced air mobility, and power is one of those key elements, as are the Veriports that are required to make this a functional transportation system. I think that there's some great opportunity and some great infrastructure which perhaps needs to be given new life under this type of scenario. So lots of potential. We're excited to see how we can move forward from here and how collectively we can broaden our expertise and our recognition as a real key contributor to the global aerospace sector in the realm of advanced mobility.
That's it. And of course, tying that into all of the existing work that the OAC is progressing, this is the opportunity and partnerships that we at CAM and the industry are excited for, building upon that base, building upon those connections. And just as we come to the top here, Myra, for your conversation with the OAC, give us one insight of something that you are personally looking forward to for the future of aviation in Ontario.
Well, right now we are the second largest aerospace sector in Canada. I would love to be able to say that we have moved up that ranking and we are level with our friends in Quebec. I know my counterpart Suzanne likes to have that first aerospace sector recognition, but we'd love to join her up on that platform. So I think that this gives us a lot of opportunities and a lot of opportunities for our supply chain, our research institutions, and it also gives students who are looking for careers a new and exciting way to engage in aerospace, which is really key.
The future talent potential. And that's what's already been identified in our existing commercial aviation side and is only going to be that much more important for our future requirements of talent in the advanced air mobility industry.
Absolutely. I think, aerospace was always seen as a very sexy industry. And I think this really kind of, takes it to that next level and engages younger generations to look at it as a very futuristic career.
That's it. The excitement on the horizon, Myra. So once again, on behalf of all of us at CAM and the participation in the launch of this white paper, thank you for the continued contribution from the OAC and to the future going forward of our development and potential on the Ontario side.
Terrific. Our pleasure. Thanks, JR.
Excellent. And that concludes our second conversation of really bringing some of the aerospace expertise and insight that we have in the Ontario region with Moira and the Ontario Aerospace Council. We'll now transition to the authors behind this white paper. I'd like to invite Michael Diamond from Nexa Advisors up to the platform. Michael, we've had the pleasure of working with you not only in our British Columbia side, but now taking it to Canada's largest and most populous region here in Toronto, the Greater Golden Horseshoe in the province of Ontario. Thank you for being with us here again and looking forward to hearing your insights. The platform is yours.
Thank you, JR. It's my pleasure. And I have a number of the Nexa team members on this call as well. So I wanted to ensure that the credit for the hard work that was performed by Nexa is spread around to the real team that did the work. So thank you again for giving us the opportunity to work with the Greater Toronto community. This has been a 7-month effort. We have been able to interview many dozens of experts and other SMEs in and throughout the Toronto area. We're an investment bank, so one of the things that we look to with this new industry is the opportunity to bring private capital to bear for infrastructure that will be needed, as well as to build out the operational side of advanced air mobility, whether it be cargo, passenger movement, vehicle acquisitions, drone delivery, or what have you. Toronto represents one of the 5 top markets in North America for advanced air mobility, due in part to the size of the Greater Toronto area, the problems that the area has with congestion, and the opportunity as an advanced city and region to embrace new technologies to enhance mobility, which in turn will produce more jobs. In our analysis work, although we're not ready to bring out the second report, that should be out perhaps in the next 2 or 3 months, but I can tell this audience that we're forecasting that just on the side of operator revenues, there's a $10 billion 25-year forecast that we stand behind. That's a very significant and brand new incremental industrial output that this community will be able to tap to bring these operations to bear. That amount of revenue should be able to justify a number of things, including the introduction of urban air mobility services by several operators. You can think of helicopter operators, but also new operators. There are actually people on this call that intend to operate their own vehicles in markets like Toronto over the course of the next 10 to 15 years or so, and those will all be welcome. The infrastructure that we are interested in funding can be privately supported due to the strength of the commercial and business case viability. of advanced air mobility for the Toronto region. I would like to urge everybody to download the report and of course read it, but also look to the next steps that we've developed at the back of the report that really involve 8 or 9 different stakeholder groups that I think have some work cut out for them to ensure that this industry gets off to a healthy start. I would like to mention that there's a tremendous opportunity in the area of university and college and trade school education, STEM opportunities, low TRL level research and development opportunities, and with the important participation of organizations like Air Canada Cargo that Barry McKinnon so aptly addressed on this call. There really is a tremendous opportunity to help to alleviate congestion in the region without necessarily adding vehicles to the road. This is something that's in the title of this white paper, but we're excited by the prospects of doing this, also helping Indigenous communities throughout the region by improving mobility options and so forth. We are very excited about the prospects for Greater Toronto. There are other markets in the United States and Canada that are also looking to the promise of advanced air mobility, and there's room for viability and very generous economic benefits for all. Thank you.
And Michael, this is the important part that I just wanted to put the extra emphasis on. Ontario and Toronto as a specific region presents, yes, a starting point, but as we know in aviation, having that connectiveness across the border as well is where we really can tap into some of the catalytic opportunities. Can you give us some of the insights of what you're seeing from your insight on the areas around the Ontario or Greater Toronto area as well?
Very good. So let's just talk about people transportation. Regional air mobility is one of the most interesting early applications for electric and hybrid flight and potentially even hydrogen propulsion. So if you look at city pairs where there's a lot of trade and commerce going back and forth right now between Toronto, let's say, and places like New York City, the vehicles that are being developed today will have the reach to be able to connect locations like Toronto Island Airport, or maybe even the top of the Scotia Plaza building to Manhattan directly, nonstop, very efficient flights. And if you look at other regions, I know there's discussion underway with the state of Ohio to look at cargo movements that might go between Hamilton Airport and Cleveland, opening up international trade and taking advantage of the fact that much of that route system is over water. So international opportunities really stand out here. I think that's a very good point, JR. Thanks.
And I think that geography, I remember, is what we're focusing on as well, is how do we leverage making sure that the public perception of leveraging the waterways, ensuring the noise footprint, as well as the environmental footprint, comply with the really high standards that the aviation community continues to excel at, and especially have that a part of the future development of different routes, cargo opportunities, and connecting of new markets.
Exactly. And the technology that's being developed now, these vehicles are going to be very quiet. Tests are coming out increasingly from several manufacturers showing that we will be able to look up at an electric vehicle flying overhead and not even hear it. So this is very exciting, enabling new technologies. I know there are noise experts actually on this call, so a big shout out to companies like HMMH who've been pioneering work in this area.
And this is what's going to be some of the important challenges that we want to stimulate in conversations from the release of this white paper, is inviting those experts in to continue to help give insight, guidance, and of course, critical data to the decision makers of both the city planners, our public transportation providers, and the ministries across the provincial government on what the opportunities of this new technology can be, and making sure we're checking off all of those boxes before moving to operations.
Thank you.
So Michael, to the entire team, once again, thank you once again for the participation and the incredible insight coming out of this white paper. We've been building upon the insight from not only the British Columbia side, but expanding here in Ontario and building it forward to the transnational Canadian opportunities for advanced air mobility. So that concludes our speaker series from the individual insights. We do want to progress and invite all three of our speakers, Myra Harvey, Barry McKinnon, and Michael Diamond, back up to the panel to start our question and answer session. And this is an opportunity, knowing that we still have many questions and invitations out there to continue to engage within this information, but this is an opportunity to just gain some of the insight from our panelists here today. We do ask that you use the question and answer feature here in the Zoom webinar, and stating your name, the media outlet or organization, and to which speaker your question is for. So I'll invite our moderator, Chris Howe, to join us on stage as well, and we can begin a brief question and answer session. A kind reminder that if we do not get to all of the questions here today, the email address for our media contacts is located at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, that media@canadianaam.com.
Thanks so much, JR. So starting off, I've got a question for Barry, just from the beginning of our presentation. I'm really curious about what Air Canada Cargo is most excited about with this advanced air mobility. Knowing we have a long way to go, what are the current kind of things in the next 12 months that you're excited about?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Great question. Naturally, we were focused on the movement of cargo and how we can do that more efficiently, and hence our focus on RPAS or drones. So we're looking forward to expanding links. We'd obviously like to see increased links from the country's airports, drone delivery links, and also we have ongoing discussions with freight forwarder firms and other shipping firms. We just see in time that and we're going to have bigger and more capable drones coming along, and particularly as the regulations continue to evolve, as experiences gain. We're just excited by the new markets that can be opened up, and so there's so much to do. We've done some internal studies that we see tremendous potential, for drone delivery in particular, but of course also we're watching very closely, cargo applications for electric VTOL aircraft in the future. So there's a lot going on.
Great, thanks so much, Barry. I wanted to bring a question over to Michael just as we wait for another question to come in. Mike, I know you worked on an economic impact assessment for the Vancouver white paper. Without getting too much into detail, I'd be curious kind of about how you see this white paper and this economic impact assessment that will be coming to Toronto kind of factoring in together.
Sure. So our approach and methodology in doing economic impact assessments is to first understand what the business case could be, what the prospects could be revenue-wise or services-wise for use cases. For Toronto, we have followed the Vancouver model. We're right in the middle now of completing the business case analysis. Toronto and the greater Toronto area, much larger markets, of course, than Vancouver. And there are different characteristics. For example, there's a heavier concentration of aerospace in the greater Toronto region, and that does change our economic impact results. But having said that, we estimated several thousand jobs being created in Vancouver, and it will be a multiple of that in terms of direct, indirect, and induced job creation for the greater Toronto area. I'm not going to speculate on numbers right now. We're working with Stats Canada, as we did with Vancouver. We will be announcing the economic impact results hopefully before the end of this year. But those numbers will have been produced in partnership with Statistics Canada to ensure the veracity of our analysis. So I know the numbers are going to be very interesting. I was looking at some preliminary business case numbers just for Toronto. $10.7 billion worth of potential operator revenues. That's US figures, by the way. So Canadian figures are larger for the use cases that we studied in the Greater Toronto Area. That's a significant figure. It's likely to stimulate a lot of investment. And those are numbers that support also the fact that private capital, as we stipulated with Vancouver, could come in and finance most, if not all, the infrastructure needed, including infrastructure at the public airports throughout the Greater Toronto region.
Thanks so much, Mike. I'm really excited to see the details on those numbers when that comes out in a few months. I've got a question here from Felipe Veron of Veron Vehicles down in South America. Really great to have you here, Felipe. If you don't know about his work and Veron Vehicles, they're doing a lot of work down in South America. He's got a question kind of about the timeline of this plan. And I know in the white paper, we had some reference to it. JR, maybe you can speak a little bit to the graduate, like how this moves forward, what you see those barriers are. And if you have any people maybe you want to tap on in this audience of speakers, maybe you can tap on that as well.
So, and that's been one of the key points as well, is really ensuring before we talk about timelines, we've identified those key challenges under the environmental, social, and economic framework to really have those aligned before committing to timeframes going forward. What we've laid out in the white paper is an overview of progress on that triple bottom line framework that will unlock the opportunities in the Greater Golden Horseshoe region leading up to the 2030 timeframe, which is our goal for bringing in commercial operations. We know there are different OEMs across the world working towards certification by the 2024-2025 timeframe. We're looking at ensuring we bring a robust operation into the region, not at a time scale that overskips our triple bottom line framework. The 2030 timeframe is where we're looking at this moment.
Great, thanks so much, JR. Another question here from Moira. Moira, I know you're engaged in a lot of strategic initiatives in aerospace, and the Ontario Aerospace Council has a huge amount of weight in Ontario, quite obviously. I'd love to hear how you see this Advanced Air Mobility Initiative working with the OAC and how that might all go together, because with this industry coming, with this feasibility study coming, I'd love to hear how those two things fit together.
I think to a great extent, it certainly focuses on R&D and R&T engagement that we have right now within the industry with respect to working to alternate fuels, more electric aircraft, achieving those net zero emissions targets. We work very closely with our partners at DARE, which is Downsview Aerospace Innovation and Research. So there's some great opportunities there and a very well-established research center that can really help take some of these things to that next level. And that's also going to enable the supply chain to benefit from this and find perhaps new customers or new opportunities within the advanced air mobility network that they're not seeing currently in more traditional markets.
Great, thanks, Moira. I've got a question here for Barry from John Burns from Royal LePage. What are the main challenges or concerns for early business adopters to use and adopt drone delivery infrastructure and services?
The drone delivery service that our partner Drone Delivery Canada offers is a turnkey service. So they're the actual operator of the service, and so there's a tremendous opportunities and flexibility in applications. There are some in the current regulatory environment. There are some limitations, overflight of persons on the ground. There are some restrictions, and obviously operations in the airports involve very careful coordination with NAV Canada. But we're learning there's ways to work with the regulator and stakeholders to look for viable solutions. We're seeing as experience is being gained, we're seeing the regulations evolve, and new opportunities open up. So we see a lot of different potential use applications. So use it pun, the sky's the limit, right? There's just, we see many different applications, and we're very optimistic. Commercial drone delivery, it's really only the second full year that's ongoing, so it's early stages, but we're seeing interest expanding very quickly in it. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks so much, Barry. I've got a few questions here in the chat. One from Pedro from General Motors. Really curious from anybody what you might wish the current charging infrastructure for EVs could do next to support advanced air mobility. Maybe JR, I'll hand this one over to you, and you might be able to tap on someone else if you wouldn't like to take this question.
So this is a really good insight on making sure that we take existing technology and development coming out of the EV market and the future hydrogen fuel cell for both personal vehicles, semis, and large manufacturing vehicles, and ensuring that that insight is then played into the advanced air mobility space. We do not need to create everything brand new for bringing charging infrastructure airside for future aviation operations. We can leverage a lot of that insight already coming out of the EV market. The narratives that we know are gaining traction on the Canadian side is how do we start allocating charging infrastructure to some of the airport vehicles, be it your baggage handlers, passenger movement buses on the air side, and take that as a starting point for getting some of the initial investment, initial infrastructure put in place so that when small urban or regional electric aircraft do come online through the certification process, there's a base of the infrastructure already there. That gives a scalability opportunity rather than just designing the infrastructure for the aviation aircraft side. There's an opportunity to leverage it for some of the ground vehicles initially.
Great points, JR. Does Barry, Moira, or Mike have any other comments on charging infrastructure they'd like to make?
Well, I could just add that in our business case analysis, we do forecast the investment cost required to provision vertiports, airports, et cetera, with charging stations. And we want people to keep in mind too that in 10 years' time, it's likely that hydrogen will become a major source of a fuel source for electric flight. And hydrogen is a very tricky molecule to work with, but we see a lot of innovation with fuel cells and advanced technologies that are going to make that a reality. So it's not just electric infrastructure, it's other forms of fuel that are really going to benefit aviation over time.
Great points, Mike. Thanks for adding that on. I've got one final question from someone in the audience. I think it's really important that we talk about also concerns not just around the economic impact, but also when we look at the overall feasibility of the industry in the coming years. How can we look to address concerns around noise and safety? JR, maybe I'll pass this one on to you because I feel quite strongly that this is a really important responsibility for everyone to get involved in, but I'd like your perspective on this.
So I'll bring it to the importance of that noise and intermodality pieces, because there are fantastic groups already a part of the Greater Toronto Area, be it the public transportation providers, be it the city officials that have these frameworks for conventional transportation projects that we need to leverage and ensure we're going through that rigorous development of not only the inclusivity, but proving out the sustainability metrics and the ability for this to be an equitable intermodal solution before moving forward in operations. And so once again, we are leaning on those challenges and extending the invitation to help bring the insight, expertise in starting to begin to tackle these, knowing that it's not going to be recreating brand new frameworks for this technology, leveraging what has already been done and expanding it to the advanced air mobility side.
And JR, you've mentioned a few different groups. Who do you think is responsible for tackling this? Is it only government? Is it only industry? How might we go about bearing this responsibility and figuring out this challenge?
This is what CAM is mainly designed for. It's to bring all of the different stakeholders from the government, industry, academia, and capital to start working synchronously together, knowing that a siloed solution is not going to be sufficient enough for the impact that this industry could have on the ecosystem.
Great, thanks so much. I see there is still a few questions in my Q&A, but in the interest of time, I really want to make sure that we hand it back over to JR and thank our speakers. So with this, I'll close our Q&A. Once again, you're more than welcome to reach out to media@canadianaam.com if there were any questions that weren't answered, and we'd be happy to get back to you. So I'll hand it back over to JR to wrap us up.
Excellent. So just to bring everything back to conclusion, we want to pass on not only the thanks to our speakers for participating today, but the incredible amount of stakeholders across the national and international ecosystem that helped contribute to this work going forward. Today is really an invitation of the future conversations to happen here in Ontario and specifically the Toronto region. So on all of these, we are extending these tools and capabilities to really help define our future transportation narratives for the Toronto, Greater Golden Horseshoe, and the Ontario region. We know we have a lot of work still ahead, but we are here today to embrace the excitement of this moment in getting to work together. So once again, from all of us here at CAM, thank you for your time today, and we look forward for the engaging conversations going forward. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Appreciate it once again.